Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Boris Manhart, who's co-founded several companies including Pulp, CodeCheck, Numbers, and Growth Unlimited. And he's invested in startups providing early stage funding and has a social investment fund called the Growth Impact Fund. Welcome to the show, Boris.
Thank you so much for having me, Roy. This will be fun. Thanks.
Awesome. So Boris, you've founded a lot of companies, but what got you started in this crazy world of startups?
Yeah, this was a total coincidence, like all good things. It was during my studies. Honestly, I wasn't a really great student. I was more into partying and clubbing, and obviously this was very expensive, right? So
Yeah.
together with two friends, we figured out how to enter the clubs without paying. So we launched a website called Pulp and would go into the clubs, take pictures of the crowd, and put it online next day. And you have to imagine this was like really the early days of internet before
Mm.
social media. So it was basically the only way to see your face in the internet, right?
Yeah.
And like the 15 minutes of fame, the famous ones, right? And this was the first step. We got some traction, but I mean, it was like kind of ridiculous if you compare it to today's numbers. But we were able to sell it to a big corporate, an international corporate. They used it for advertising, basically. I guess they shut it down after 6 months or so, but whatever. Um, but with the funds we with this we gained from this acquisition, we invested into a agency, and we served their different international brands like Microsoft, like Nestle, Unilever. Made really great projects throughout 10 years basically. So I was the CEO of this agency called iMedia over 10 years. And
Okay.
with all the experience I gained with working with customers, I got an offer from a guy who wanted to launch one of the first fintech company builders. It was like, I guess, 2010 or 11.
Right.
And I joined. And this was Central Way back then. And Central Way became Numbers later.
Mm.
So basically, we focused then on just one project. And the fun part is this was the only time and the first time where I had to get rid of customers
Mhm.
because we merged with an agency, and we wanted to focus fully on creating or building startups this time. And I had to get rid of all the customers and finish the projects. That was basically my first job at Numbers and Central Way.
Got it, interesting. And I've been part of like a decacorn, but obviously I was one of the many operators. But what were some of your learnings from building Numbers?
Um, well, it was an amazing time because we scaled pretty fast, right? So we started with a small team, and then we scaled up to, I don't know, probably 100 people in 1.5 years. And obviously throughout those those months, you basically go through different phases of a company. Usually it takes years, right, to get
Right.
to those phases, but we did it really fast pace. And I learned a lot about building teams, leading teams, and especially about leading teams. I would say I learned the basic principles of leadership there because before I always was working with great people, right, but not with, let's say, the best talent in the world. This changed a lot, right? So at Numbers, I realized that like I'm not the brightest person in the room anymore. So I
Right.
really had to put my ego aside and to understand what leadership is actually about. It's not about telling people what to do. It's not about kind of feel like always pushing them or whatever. It's really about creating this environment where people can thrive. It's all about trust as well, especially when you work with top talent. And it's all about, and this is the most important thing, aligning on goals, right? The whole team, and provide support when needed. This means understanding what people are working on, not always in details, but understanding when they have difficulties, when they have challenges, and then supporting by adding resources or ideas or whatever, right? So, but being more in the background. So I would say the most important thing I've learned was really that if effective leadership is more about elevating the whole instead of like being part of the tiny little details.
Got it. And after that, you built CodeCheck. Was that a continuation of what you're trying to build in Numbers?
Um, Obviously, like I joined CodeCheck after Numbrs, and CodeCheck was already an existing product.
Okay.
But together with, let's say, the first team, I founded the company, right? Company CodeCheck. It wasn't the founder of the tool,
Right.
but we started back then, and all these leadership skills that I learned, obviously that helped me to build up the team at CodeCheck, which was quite complex because we had a team in Zurich, we had a team in Berlin, we had an entity in London, in the US. So I was traveling a lot, right? And obviously, like this knowledge of basic leadership and aligning teams helped a lot to achieve our goals as well there.
Got it. And I've been part of AI companies. But you very interestingly mentioned that AI will eat its children. So do you think most of the AI startups valuation will go to zero? Obviously, you've had uh, you know OpenAI, which gave a great numbers last year around $2 billion per. But what is your thoughts about AI startups and companies?
I mean, it feels a bit like the early days of internet, right?
Right.
Imagine Pulp, my first venture today, right? It's totally doesn't make sense, right? So you
Yeah.
have social media and all the rest. So there's a huge pace of innovation happening currently. And lots of those startups will get obsolete because they will become features of bigger products. You always see this happening in ChatGPT, right? So or OpenAI, they're launching lots of different initiatives you know, that have been startups before, right? And this will continue. And then the other thing is, I'm not talking about OpenAI, I'm not talking about big players. Probably they will face different challenges in future as well. But talking about all those AI startups that actually are based on existing LLM, and I think most of them will disappear because there is almost no defensibility, right? So it's easy to replicate what they do, especially when there's become successful. You see that this creates lots of red oceans when you have a look at all those AI chatbots, right? I guess I've seen 5 new ones this week already, whatever. So there's simply it doesn't make any sense anymore to create another AI chatbot because you won't add any value to this market, right?
Right.
And I think, like the basic or the fundamental business principle of having a market with a need, serving this need is truer than ever, right? It's totally independent from the technology. Technology should serve customers or should serve your customers, should help to solve a problem, but shouldn't be the sake of your startup, right? So I think, if you create a new tech startup these days, you will most likely use AI
Mhm.
as a technology, but you
Yeah.
still should solve a problem or serve a certain need of your customers and add value, basically.
Right. Got it. And I've been to few B schools, but do you think since you've been part of CodeCheck and Numbers, do you think CEOs are born and do you think a B school degree like a MBA is worth it for CEOs?
Right, I've been a very bad CEO at the beginning, so I wasn't born with that skills. I mean, there are some personality traits that help. So if you like have a certain leadership skills, if you have communication skills or empathy as well, or some
Right.
strategic thinking, that all helps, right? So
Right.
probably you need some certain traits, but I think throughout the years I was working as a CEO, I changed a lot. I even changed in different setups, right? So, for example, at CodeCheck, I was a hired CEO.
Right.
That means I had a different role as when I was a founder, and became a CEO. Because usually when you're a founder, you have a strong emphasis on the product,
Yeah.
right? And when you're a higher CEO, they usually seek for a person who can scale the company and
Mm.
internationalize, right? So that's you have much more focus on operations. So, well, to answer your question, I don't think that you're born as a CEO. I think you need to learn it. You become better. What helps is to be very open to feedback and to
Right.
create this environment where people actually can give you feedback, even negative feedback. And it's never nice, right? So when they give you negative, it's never nice, but it's the only way to grow and to learn, right? And I even think, that I've worked with different CEOs as well, and they're so different, right? I don't even think that it's actually a role in a way, right? It's
Yeah.
really you basically you need to shape it, and the environment where you work is shaping it, right?
Mm.
Your question about the MBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working a lot with EMBA students from the IMD in Lausanne.
Right.
And what I see is that the MBA helps to reflect.
Yeah.
So what I called before, like getting feedback, is what happens during this MBA, right? You get a lot of feedback, and I think people change.
Mm.
So the most valuable part is not what you'll actually learn, but it's what you basically get as, or what you can add to your personality, right? What you can learn or grow basically throughout this 1 or 2 years that you study.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you are absolutely right that it helps you reflect, makes you like a better communicator. I think that is, if I look back, I think that is what I learned. A lot of feedback so that I'm also able to be a little more clear about what I want. But it and also
Exactly. You
depends on,
learn a lot about yourself, right? So about
yeah,
your skills. And this is something I learned on the job, say
yeah,
at Numbrs, where I learned that where my limits are actually, right?
yeah, yeah,
So,
true.
and this is something that you can learn probably in faster pace and more in a more secure space at an MBA.
Yeah, yeah. Also, it depends on the person on, how much they want to learn and how much they want to apply, what they learned.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And yeah, since you built teams and companies before, so what is the number one failure condition for teams if they're not able to execute?
Yeah, I think it's misalignment. You can create the best or build the best team ever. It's the greatest talent. And
Yeah,
if you don't align them on a certain goal, they will run in different directions. And that means your whole product or startup will stand still. I guess that's something that I see happening a lot. Um, I'm using OKRs
okay.
to align my teams and to well track the progress. And when I talk about tracking progress, it's not about controlling. It's really about understanding if they face challenges, if I can add support. And I think that's super important to understand because if one person of a team stays behind, the whole team won't achieve their milestones.
Mm,
So they all depend on each other. That's super important to be very disciplined when it comes to OKRs, to really talk about that on a weekly basis. It's not just about implementing, it's really about using it as a communication tool as well in one-on-ones, in team meetings, and so forth. And then the other thing is, like it's all about creating as well, what I mentioned, this environment or this culture of common values, which are actually basic rules, right? And common understanding of how to collaborate, of how to work together. And another thing, what I see happening sometimes, with teams that don't work well, is as well when the founders are not aligned.
right,
That happens quite often, actually. It happened to me as well. When they basically tear into different direction, the same thing happens, right? You
right.
just stand still.
Mm. Right. And especially, with teams, I mean, OKRs are one thing, but how do you make sure that, the teams are aligned with each other? Like I've seen, since I've been in the sales and revenue part of the rules, I've seen like a lot of sales guys and product guys are not aligned with each other.
Mhm.
Or maybe when sales teams gets an account, they're not very aligned with the customer success team. So like they just hand it over and the job is done. How do you make sure that that sort of communication is still alive between all the departments?
It's a lot of communication. It's really a
Yeah.
lot of communication. I'm using different tools for communication. One good thing is we always had this brown bag lunches on
Yeah.
Fridays, for example. And here, one person of one team would present what they're working on, or
Thanks.
some ideas, or even some hobbies sometimes, right?
Mm,
But I think alignment happens when people know their challenges, when they have respect for each other, and this is all about culture after all. Right?
yeah. Correct. And you've been building, Growth Unlimited. So how do you help founders, and you also run a growth impact fund. So which are the sectors that you look into investing into those
Mm-hmm.
founders?
I have to say we don't have a fund, right? We invest our
Okay.
personal
Oh, I
money
see.
into startups, but we do very few investments. So last year we did two.
Okay.
This year probably another two or three. We'll
Right.
see. But what we do, what our main focus is product market fit, because I realized, this milestone is crucial for every startup.
Right.
And it happened to me that I haven't achieved it, at least in all different areas of certain companies, for example, CodeCheck. We had a lot of traction, we had millions of users, but we could never build a sustainable business model.
Right.
It's probably a bit early for sustainability focused startup. This was a couple of years ago already. I guess these days it's easier. But this topic, product market fit, I always considered it as a huge challenge, and I thought there must be a better way to get there, right?
Right.
So when I left my last venture, I first of all I focused on a reflection. Right? I wrote down everything, and I started to build a process to get to product market fit faster.
Mm,
Because what happens a lot is that people iterate on frameworks, on tools like OKRs, for example, right?
right.
Sometimes you need lots of iteration until it works, but this is not necessary and doesn't add value to your startup. So what I see where we add value at Growth Unlimited is that we already have all those frameworks in place, that we have templates in place, that we can train the teams on doing it right first attempt, and on really on focusing on product market fit. So we don't tell them, if their idea is right or wrong, because I can't do this, right? It's really the customers who need to decide. Sometimes I'm not part of the target group,
Right.
so I cannot tell, but I can tell how to test it, how to get this feedback in fast pace. And my idea is basically that we can lead startups to product market fit within 6 months,
Mm, mm,
while the average, takes between 2 and 3 years, right?
right.
And I strongly convinced that, from 3 years, at least 2 years is just, like basically testing out things, changing, doing something else, and or creating the 10th iteration on the pitch deck before you even need to raise money. So that's basically what we do. And sometimes when we see, okay, there is some early traction, we like the team, they like us, then we invest a small amount at the very early stage, right?
Okay.
Because usually funds are missing at this stage, and you need to show something before you can, like fundraise, basically.
Okay. Got it. And do you take multiple number of clients at one time, or do you like to be hands off and advise
Yeah,
startups?
Yeah, so we only work with limited numbers of
Okay.
startups. But I work as well with a accelerator called Picora, where I have a product market fit e-learning program, and this is open to everybody basically.
Right. Right. Okay. Got it. And especially, what has happened in the last 2 years, in fact, since COVID 2020 and 21, a lot of capital was raised. Um, and you've seen, large rounds being raised in 2021. But do you think too much capital can kill companies at this seed stage?
It can, but it really depends on, let's say, as well the culture or the team
Right.
itself. I had this once where I would say we had enough capital to start. And I knew that, like this is kind of it's a gift, right? It's not something that you can just spend now on, I don't say crazy acquisition campaigns or whatever. It's really kind of an extension of your runway. And I guess this is super important that you really see it as something extremely positive and like something that helps you to go even deeper when it comes to reaching product market fit, to testing stuff. So for example, you can invest in, let's say, a professional usability test or in a professional brand agency. But if you start too early to scale, you will burn a lot of money. And it's so
Mm,
easy to burn money,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Even if you have tons of capital, right? I don't know if you recall Quibi.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do.
they managed to burn like 2 billion or something
Yeah.
in less than 2 years. So this is easy, but really kind of extending your runway and going deep, do your homework, probably with better talent, right? Probably faster.
Right.
I guess this is when you invest the capital really sustainably.
Got it. And I think in the last year or so, things have became a lot saner, but how do you see the seed and seed market and pre-seed market change over the next 12 to 14 months?
Mm. Well, I think there's still a lot of dry powder, and we've seen lots of bridge rounds last year.
Mm,
And I guess our hope that this will change and that more funds will basically go into the early stages, new startups. We will see lots of startups fail, right? Because you cannot add one bridge round after another, after another, after another. Sometimes there's an end.
yeah.
So we will probably see more new startups coming, but as well more failures this year.
Mm, got it. Got it. And and what are some of the biggest lessons that a founder needs from VCs, especially if they're not able to raise the funding? What other advice or lesson can they give other than capital
You mean beside funding?
besides funding? Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I think that's still the core. You shouldn't expect much more from VCs, especially.
Okay.
Um, you can usually, I mean, they can add value when it comes to networks,
Yeah.
when it comes to advice. They've seen a lot, right? But it's all about managing your investors as well. So
Right.
this is kind of a task you need to do, right? It's not that they will come proactively and support you. And like when I say managing, it's really about building a relationship, not just sending emails.
Yeah.
Really have lunch with them, talk to them, discuss things, and you will probably get, like, let's say, beside new contacts as well, new ideas. This can be, it can build great relationships, but it's really, really about you. You need to build it as a founder. You need to manage it as a founder.
Mm, got it. And Boris, when you're looking to invest into startups, what is it which is a priority for you? Traction, team, market. What do you look for in a in investment?
I like this question because I usually ask it to students as well. I usually ask, what's market, team, or product, and everybody says it's team.
Yeah.
Then some IT guys say it's product and nobody ever says the market. But if you think about, like if you have a great market
Right.
with a huge need, even a mediocre product, even an MVP built by two founders will get
Right.
traction, right?
Uh,
So traction and as well, partially the team is a consequence of having a market, right? So
mm,
if you have market, you will get traction. If you have traction, you will be able to hire better talent, right?
mm. Got it. Got it. Interesting. And especially with you've seen in a lot of these schools, people are going back into investment banking or traditional jobs, consulting and all that. But if they are brave young people who still want to get into startup landscape, what should they know when they're trying to enter the landscape in 2024?
Yeah. I would say it's probably not what you expect,
Yeah.
especially in the early stages of a company. You basically do everything as a founder, right? You clean the bathroom, you
Yeah.
take up the phone, you do sales, you do marketing, you probably code. So it's you fill the gaps, right?
Yeah.
But you still own the vision. But
Mm,
like this vision and innovation and freedom is probably only a small part of the job, right?
mm,
But still, I think it's if you have the passion for that,
yeah.
it's really great because it never gets boring.
Yeah.
It's obviously a lot of work, but it really never gets boring. You learn a lot, and you learn as well to be patient. Especially at the beginning, you need a lot of patience. It just you cannot rush and just go out with a product that isn't tested or that has no kind of market feedback yet. So this is all things you need to learn, and I think it's an incredible journey you can
Yeah.
have as a
Right.
founder.
Yeah, I always feel like the younger you are, I think you can take more risks. But obviously, once you have a lot of experience, you can take those risks, but it becomes easier when you are younger to,
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it can do a lot more. You get more productive because you already know a lot of things, right?
yeah, yeah,
There's some advantages of having this background of being there for a couple of years. But even without experience, with all this patience, you can achieve a lot, right? So
mm, yeah, yeah, makes
yeah.
sense. And Boris, I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
It's still lean startup.
Yeah,
And I think it's even more up to date these days while there's not a lot of funding. And I always tell everybody, go the lean way before you reach product market fit, before you really understand, what's your business,
yeah, yeah,
what's your market, who's your customer. And so I think, this was probably my most influential book, and I would recommend to read it for everybody, even though we have probably better tactics these days. It's
yeah.
already, I guess, 10 years old or more. But this is something you can still learn and read up. But the whole idea of the book is still up to date.
Got it. And absolutely, I think that's one of the best starter books that I've read. Being able to put that in the show notes. And, if you could go back in the time when you started working in startups, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done anything differently?
I would say, especially like what I just mentioned, really focusing on product market fit at the beginning and really having this understanding that there is this point when you know the answers of who is your customer, how to serve your customers, what's the solution to their problem, basically. And this answers a lot. This answers, how your product should look like, how your team should look like, because once you know what kind of value you're going to deliver, you know what people you need to achieve that, right?
Yeah.
So knowing that helps tremendously, and really focusing on that, and probably be even a bit, like under the radar at the beginning, and testing a lot. So that helps. And the other thing is as well, what I've learned throughout the years is like to share more
Mm,
um, my thoughts, to discuss my thoughts with advisors, with my team. I At the beginning, I would say I was really kind of like, I had my ideas, and I didn't communicate, I didn't challenge them. And this is something which is extremely valuable because you will change your ideas throughout the time. You will get lots of feedback. And if you work with advisors from certain industries, with certain specialists as well, domain experts, you will get lots of insights that you just cannot get somewhere else, right? You cannot read them up. You don't feel them when you just read a blog. But when you talk to a person, when a person really shows you how to do it, that adds lots of value.
Got it. No, absolutely. And what's your favorite online tool? For example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom.
It's I'm being very let's say probably boring. It's ChatGPT. I would say it changed my life tremendously, right? And
Yeah,
especially working lots a lot of time from home. It's my companion. I do a lot of brainstorming. It helps me to write. It helps me to kind of do little tasks like writing emails.
yeah,
Just you know be nicer to people because like before I was pretty straight to the point, and now I just start like that, and then I give it to ChatGPT, and it refines the email, and it's always much better. It sounds just much better and more polite, actually.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
No,
I
absolutely.
really
I think, yeah, that's a super tool. I think I've really invested a lot into that tool with a lot of prompts and all that. I think it's a great assistant. Yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
And what are the best way people can reach out to you and know more about, Growth Limited and what you do?
Um, to reach out to me, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So my website is it's called Growth Unlimited, which is growthunltd.com. And people can read it up and as well reach out to me as well via LinkedIn. I always mentioned I have a newsletter which is currently a bit on pause, but I will start it again in March. So there's a newsletter on the website all about product market fit
sure.
with lots of templates, information, showcases, and so forth. So I believe that this can add a lot of value when you're in this early stage of a startup.
Sure. So absolutely. We'll put that in the show notes. And Boris, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thanks, it was great fun. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you.